Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Do it live.
Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome to Wired Axcess Podcast, where I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. We appreciate all those who like, subscribe, and do all the sharing of everything that we do, whether it's a clip out, highlight, and everything that we cover. Just remember, when you share or subscribe below, that is going to be our Hurrdat Sports, the production of this podcast. We appreciate your support there, but also don't be afraid to go to YouTube at Wired Axcess. That way you can also get the clip outs, the highlight plays and all that we share, the plug and play. I greatly appreciate all the support on the votes for that. Today I am welcoming UNK's student assistant coach, however he would like to put it. But Trevor Munson. Trevor, welcome to the show. Of course, I have a relationship where when I had a show previously, I got to talk to your dad, and it kind of grew me to watch you and kind of watch your journey. Of course, your timing of your journey is something that a lot of athletes are kind of on the back end of with COVID, because you're a 2020 graduate. And you decided to go from the state of Texas, of course, is where you guys resided, came all the way up here back to Kearney, which is home to your family. So it's not like you went somewhere random, but talk about just that part of pre-college life for you down in Texas, and give kind of a point of view of what some people don't understand is Texas football, because I've never played Texas football, but I know and have heard of Texas football. What do you feel the biggest thing that you kind of went through in high school down there in Texas?
Just level of competition and support. I mean, we played in a pretty big hometown, and there were games where playing on average, playing in front of 10,000 people, and you get into the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're playing in Jerry's World, and you're playing in front of 30,000, 40,000, maybe even 50,000 people. So that's a really big thing that preps you for college too, is getting used to the roar and blocking out the noise. And then obviously level of competition is a really big thing. I've played with some pretty big names in the NFL. I played against guys in the NFL. So it was really beneficial for me to go ahead and pursue a collegiate career. It's very college-esque in Texas. We have summer workouts that begin in June. We go until August. We go in like a mini fall camp session before school starts, and then we're in football season. So the last week of August, and state championship goes until mid-December. So I played 19.
Can't do up north, that's for sure.
Yeah, I played 19 of 20 possible weeks my senior year. Got knocked out semifinals, played 10 straight, got a bye week, and then we played 5 straight. So, it was definitely taxing on the body, but, the memories are very much worth it.
When you go through your recruiting process, this is, of course, right before COVID. What was some of the things that you kind of took away from that, as far as some pointers, some things that you would, if you had to look back at Trevor as a freshman and you said, hey, here's something that I would say kind of in the recruiting process that I should think about maybe earlier than I did or later than I did?
Go where you're wanted, not where you're tolerated. Coaches are going to make it very clear on kind of their viewpoint of you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. How do I fit in your offense? What do you see me running in your offense? And just kind of ask those questions that, you kind of get a better understanding of how you're going to be utilized in that offense or defense. And always come prepared, like wear jeans, don't wear shorts. Joggers are okay, but look professional. Look like you want to be there, not like it's just some other visit. It goes both ways in the sense the recruit has to show interest in the coaching staff, and the coaching staff has to show interest in the recruit. So it goes both ways. Talk about academics. First things first. Go and get your degree. Football is not going to be there forever. So go to a university where they have your degree plan or something you're interested in. Take that into account. I know athletes kind of get bored by the sound of like the academic side of things because, they're thinking I'm going to come here and I'm going to play football. But, it's really important, especially like under my circumstances. I thought I was going to play football all 4 years. It didn't happen that way. And so, getting into a degree plan for me was pretty important.
Well, and when you think of your recruiting process, what do you think was the biggest impact for you? Was it the fact of where you played to where you want to go, or was it more of just the background of having obviously your dad who does On3, just knowing the knowledge? What do you think was kind of your biggest insight?
Man,
It's 4 years ago. I know it went so fast.
it did go fast. You know, probably just how the coaches treated me and everything. Like seeing how they treat my family and not just myself. That was a really big thing for me. Shaking my hand, coming up to me, just talking to me, making sure school's going well, talking about everything other than football. That was a really big part to me.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up. When you think of just your upside of the relationship, no schools needed, but was there anything that kind of, because I think nowadays, especially, it's a different world than what you went through 4 years ago with the transfer portal, all that impacts
Right.
it. But was there anything that you really looked at and go, okay, that's not what's in best interest for me, that you saw, whether it was, I hear these stories, of course, I've never experienced, but where sometimes players and athletes will go, they kind of toyed with me. They made me feel like I was important, but the timing felt like I wasn't that guy that they were really looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a school like that in my recruiting process. Really wanted to go end up playing there, and you ask these important questions. Am I a scholarship guy? Am I a walk-on guy? You ask these questions, and you learn to kind of value yourself a little bit more. And like I said earlier, go where you're wanted, not where you're tolerated. The biggest thing right now is with the NIL and portal, and all these possibilities are endless. And I really enjoy Division II because it's true football for me. There's limited NIL. It's a grind. It's a grind, and so that was a really big part for me.
When you think of your high school career, were you a multi-sport athlete? Is that something that goes good in Texas, or is it more
Yeah.
sometimes you kind of specialize? I know up here it's getting more and more specialized. I mean, you're now seeing 7-on-7 getting big with
Yep.
football. You already know baseball goes all year round. Basketball is really taking on all year round.
It
I mean,
is.
I think locally we had even preseason schools versus schools games while football's going on, which normally it would just go over the summer, and you're like, what is, I mean, multi-sport athletes is just giving these kids these experiences. What do you think is the pros and cons between those, because we've seen people be successful both ways, right? It's not always the multi-sport athlete is always going to be the top guy that everybody goes for.
Right.
On the flip side, just because you specialize doesn't mean you're going to be that top pick that you're looking for.
Exactly. So I was a multi-sport athlete. I played football, I played baseball, I ran track, and I played volleyball in high school. So a really big thing was, just I think it shows more of your athleticism in the sense that you can go ahead and do all these different sports and excel in them. And so that's a big thing for me in the recruiting process, and like looking at guys is are they specialized or are they more just a true all-around athlete? And I really like multi-sport athletes. It was impossible for me to play baseball and football because in Texas we have spring football. So I'd go from fall football straight into baseball season, and that was tough because I'm missing practice reps in spring football, especially when you're a freshman or a sophomore, and coaches kind of get more of a say in like how you're going to be in the offense. So I stopped playing baseball my junior year of high school, and that's when I kind of trended towards football. But I still ran track. I played volleyball. I just like you said, I specialized in football, but I wanted to at least do other sports that would still trickle into football and getting me ready for that.
Now, I've seen here more closely because I'm obviously closer to the game of covering sports between like football and basketball. Let's just say the recent transition that just happened. Football here goes until the middle of November. Basketball starts that following week. Is that healthy for these kids to just go like that? Or is there, I mean, obviously there's only 2 teams that make it to that point, right? So, I mean, others have had 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever off.
Yep.
But you got those athletes. Normally, these are big schools that have success. These are the athletes that go straight over. I mean, I could tell you, I watched Jet from Millard South play in the championship game, and then I go to my first plug and play basketball hoops night, and there he is playing basketball just a week and a half later. So it's like just seeing that transition to where how comfortable can they be? How good is it for the body to maybe decompress or even be able to just relax for a moment?
No, absolutely. Take rest. That's the biggest thing. You're in high school, especially if you're going to play sports at the next level. I don't really see a whole lot of value in rushing into a new season. I understand, you want to be a good teammate and, you want to go ahead and be there for the team, go ahead and be on the sidelines, be there, but, take a week off. And for seniors, if you're already signed to go play football somewhere, you're committed to play somewhere, don't put yourself in harm's way. Anything can happen when you're playing sports. You can get rolled up on, knock on wood, but you hurt a knee, hurt a shoulder, blow something out. It's a tough spot to be in because schools will drop you for that. They don't want to deal with the recovery aspect because, when you rehab an injury, it's a toss up. It's either going to still linger or you're going to come back stronger than before. So, my advice to seniors, especially if you're going to go play collegiate sports, just take that time off, rest for a week and then, hit the weight room hard, get ready. You're getting ready to turn the page and go on and, do bigger and better things that they don't even, they're not even aware of yet. So,
you're going to join that 1%, right? I mean, you're going to join that 1% that everybody talks about.
Yep.
You end up choosing University of Kearney, obviously, like I've already said, where it is home for your family. But how did you even get linked? What was that kind of process for you that maybe someone else can look at and go, okay, that, and I know a lot of people say, I mean, it's just like anything else. Once you're there, it's home when you feel it.
Yep.
What was just the recruiting process for you? And how did that all go prior to COVID?
So I came up for a summer football camp. Well, let's go back even more than that. My dad played football here, 94 to 99. My mom went to school here. Parents met here. I have family in North Platte. I got family in Lincoln, Columbus, Omaha. So, it's just family I didn't really get to see a whole lot growing up. That was a really big part for me in the recruiting process. Just, being able to be around my family. I got a great grandma in North Platte. She's 99. I want to be able to go and see her on the holidays and spend that time with my grandparents. I didn't really get to see a whole lot. Go watch my cousins play in Omaha. So that was really big for me. And then, I came here for a summer camp. Had a really good camp here in Kearney. And I went to a camp in Wyoming. And that's when the staff offered me right after that camp. And so then I came up once on an unofficial visit. And, I met some of my roommates on that visit. And then I came back up for an official visit. And so, I felt wanted. They were constantly texting me. It just felt right. And there wasn't a doubt in my mind. I still remember being in the kitchen making that phone call to the coaches when they had just won the Mineral Water Bowl game. And, making sure everything that my offer was committable. And, I was the first commit in the class. And then I got directly into recruiting the rest of the class. So, that was really big for me. I was really bought into the vision of Kearney. I love it here. I went from, Dallas, fast-paced living to Kearney where it's quiet. There's still plenty to do here. So, that was a really big thing for me too. Walmart's 5 minutes away, versus, having to drive across a lake and then deal with traffic in Texas.
Well, I like that you made a point. You signed, you committed, and then it was now your turn to pass that on. Mm-hmm. Obviously, for Nebraska, for the Cornhuskers, everybody talks about what Raiola's doing. How important was that for even your team to grow, and what kind of led you to understand how that needed to go for you guys to get some good recruits?
I felt like I was a pretty valuable recruit, and I felt like I was a pretty high target on their board when I was coming in here. And literally the day after I committed, I texted the coach. I'm like, look, send me 12 guys you want. Who are the 12 guys that are going to be difference makers in this class? And, essentially the coaches are salesmen. And, they're selling a vision. They're selling the facilities. They're selling everything about the football team and the university. There's not a better seller than somebody who's already bought the product. So for me to go ahead and continue to sell everything for them with somebody who's already bought into the vision, I think that's 100 times more valuable, especially coming from the word of mouth from a guy that's their age rather than an older guy. So, that was a really big thing in the recruiting process for me.
When you think of the recruiting process, you think of what your dad's current job is. Mm-hmm. Of course, Hurrdat is lucky enough to have DB in the mornings, and he went through a part where he actually left radio to enjoy some of his son's process. Do you feel like there was anything for Dad, or how did that all go? What was kind of his words? Was it kind of just, I back you, I'm watching you? Of course, being an alma mater, that kind of is a little big part of it, but I'm pretty sure he still kind of let you figure your own road on that.
Yeah, he did. He was very supportive throughout the whole time. I remember, after I got the offer in Wyoming, he's never hugged me that big before. And, I think it meant a little bit more coming from an alma mater and, a place where he's met all of his best friends at and all the guys in his wedding. So, it was a really big thing for him. I bet he was a little biased. I would be too. But, he still let me enjoy the recruiting process. We still took visits everywhere else. He made sure I was, really making the right decision. And we had plenty of conversations about, the possibilities of coming to Kearney. And it just made sense, everything that he said. And, but there was still plenty of times where it was like, well, so-and-so wants me to come on a visit. It's like, okay, well, let's pick a weekend and we'll go. And, he did a really good job of, backing me up, and mom kind of played the devil's advocate for certain things. And, so it was good cop, bad cop. And so they did a really good job of, making sure that, I was making the best decision for myself as an athlete and as a man.
Did anybody ever question, I mean, oh, your dad covers the Huskers. Is that not an opportunity? Why aren't you going there?
Yeah.
All that
Oh,
hoorah,
yeah.
hoorah.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. Dad's been covering Husker recruiting for 25 years, and I grew up a diehard Husker fan. I always wished I got to put the ant on that side of my head. And, I shouldn't say that there was true possibilities because of what my dad does. Sometimes university kind of eyes him in a different way. If they have a guy on campus and, nobody really knows, but, he finds out, then, he puts out an article, I just don't think that they would really want to deal with a mole in the program, I guess is the right way to put that. So, I had a really good camp in Lincoln, went to a Friday night light camp. There was talks about a PWO, but it just wasn't going to make sense for me to go and do that. And, as much as I wanted to do chase that dream, I needed to be realistic with myself and, what was going to put me in a better situation to win. And, in terms of playing the program, where did I really fit in at? And, that's where we decided Kearney was the best for me.
I like that you use a word that most people are afraid maybe to say, or maybe to even look at deeper, the realization,
Mm-hmm.
the understanding. What do you think was your biggest thing that you were able to accept in the realization? And what was one thing that you go, man, I coulda, I woulda, I shoulda?
I think just, valuing where you are as a player, you got to ask if you're a scholarship guy or a walk-on guy. That's a really big thing in the recruiting process, especially when like FCS schools are recruiting me. I felt like I was a Division I FCS guy. And, I just didn't get the opportunity that I was really looking for. And I realized, coming to Kearney, it's the best conference in Division II football. Facilities are amazing. The coaching staff was amazing. That was a really big factor for me too. I didn't feel like I was taking a step back. I felt like I was kind of on the same level. So that was a really big thing for me. And I don't regret anything. I wouldn't be where I am today if I would have chose differently and chose to walk on somewhere. And the portal's not completely a guarantee. You're going to see guys that get in the portal right now. There's up to 6,000 guys. There's only so many football teams with so many spots. I know it's nuts.
It's just thinking about it. Like I think of how grateful I am that I don't have a kid going through that process of my own. Now, seeing other athletes that I've obviously coached or been around, that is hard to swallow, and of course, from my point of view, I just try not to get involved. I just promote or, say, hey, this person's in the portal, here we go. But I think about it all the time. You got a lot of local kids that just had to hit the portal because of these big roster changes and all these things. So we're not even talking about what we're going to get to with you as far as the COVID. We're just talking about just the transfer portal and the scholarship changes like that alone. Yeah. Then you add on what you kind of went through, which was COVID year. You get up here for COVID year. What do you remember about that first year and the fact that you were like so gung-ho, you knew you were going to get to play football, and then it just was like whoosh, ripping from under you?
It was kind of surreal. Even in high school, like we went on spring break and there was the sicknesses, the outbreak happened. And then I had two commits down in Texas with me. And, we got to get on a flight and we got to go back. And so they left early, and then it was like 2 weeks, we got another 2-week break. Awesome. Never went back. And, that was really crazy for me. And, just being in high school, not getting to go to prom. I didn't get to go do a senior picnic. I didn't get to go do senior skip day. I didn't get to go do all those things. And so it was really weird, but it was kind of a blessing too at the same time. You get to be around your family more before you leave for college. You get to go make, silly little memories. My dad and I built a weight rack out of 2x4s and Home Depot buckets and cement. And so, that's something we did over break. And, we still had, I still had guys coming over and working out in the garage with me. And so, there's little memories to where, you kind of look back on, it wasn't really half bad. And then,
See, and I
getting to
think that's what
college.
people did was they either took advantage and did that part, or they kind of sat back and waited. And of course, you were talking about, just the bonding, the growth, with even your fellow teammates, but not everybody was able to do that. Not all your teammates were able to participate. What was it like kind of just being around some of those athletes that was their norm, and then their norm is no longer the norm?
It's just, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? What are you willing to do to put yourself on a platform to go and succeed? So I'm very blessed that my dad and I, were able to do that and have guys that were either playing college football already or guys that were getting ready to be seniors in high schools that following year. It was really big for us to go ahead and get ready for that next step for their senior year, my freshman year, the other guys a sophomore year of playing football. So it was really big for us. And then, getting to college, I wanted to come up early and I wanted to work out with the team. I wanted to move to Kearney. I wanted to get used to the summer workouts. I wanted to get familiar with names and faces. And I ended up moving up here towards the end of June, started working out after the 4th of July. We were only 3 days a week, certain groups, we had 3 different groups because we could only have X amount of people in the weight room. We're wearing masks during workouts, which sucked, going outside and trying to work out. And then even rolling into fall camp, it was weird. It was really weird. It didn't feel normal, I guess is what, it wasn't what I was expecting, my freshman year of college to be like. And then, we went and get COVID tested every single Monday morning, made sure nobody was sick. And then practices were, pretty spaced out. We only got to play 3 games in 2020, didn't count towards eligibility. I never got to play. I tore my knee up my first day of practice. So, that was a really interesting aspect of everything too, trying to rehab during COVID. It was something that was pretty odd. We had face scanners. It was nuts. It was nuts.
Well, and see, so my daughter graduated right with you. And of course, those are the, even to this day, she kind of talks about like missing graduation, missing all that stuff. And you got these reunions that are going to start popping up for you young kids. And then she goes to college to play soccer, and stuff that we didn't know is they were quarantined a total of 7 times during that time. I don't know. Did you have any of that? Because to me, that was a mental battle. Yeah. Especially if my daughter really never left home, left home until then. And it went from, she was going to go to Nebraska Christian College 5 minutes away. Because that school closed because of COVID. Their numbers were down. So yes, we get it. The closest next one is Manhattan Christian College. Goes down there and it's like 3 hours away. And when you're a homebody, you're getting locked up for COVID, and your parents have never been through that, and they experience. You're like, this is not good for the mental, but also, you went through an injury. Going, who's got my back now? Who's gonna make sure I get to do what I want to do when they don't have to, because your season might not even get a play.
Yeah. No, it was tough. Family's 10 hours away, right around 700 miles away from home. My dad drove up 2 days after my injury. They stayed with my uncle. So it was my dad and my brother. They were there for the rehab. I rehabbed for a month, then I had surgery. I'm very blessed. I have a great friend, like my roommate, Grant. He did a lot of things for me, like even just getting out of the shower and helping me get dressed because I couldn't do it after surgery, helping me, he just did all kinds of things for me. And so, I tell him, anytime I can, that I'm extremely grateful for a guy like him, somebody who's, far away from home, didn't really have a whole lot of people, just that could drop everything and then move. For him to do that for me and step up and, kind of be a brother for me, that was huge. I needed a guy like that. So, it was definitely, kind of a mental battle too, with COVID. And, if a player got sick on the team, they got moved into a completely different dorm room. They were isolated by themselves. I never got COVID, thankful I didn't, but, guys would say, I'm kind of losing my mind in here. I can't go anywhere. Dining hall, they brought you food. It was kind of like, you were imprisoned almost. You're sitting in a room by yourself. You're laying down, you're either playing video games, doing your homework. People are just bringing you food because you can't go anywhere. Like I couldn't have imagined having to go through that.
Well, and you also bring up the mental part of an injury like you had. Mm-hmm. You didn't go through anything that severe in high school. You, of course, were able to do anything and everything you wanted up until that point. How did you get through the struggle besides having the help, of course, of your roommate? But how did you beat your mental game to make it known that you can do this again and get back? Because I think if we have high school athletes or any college athlete, that's probably the number one thing that goes through their mind. Because some schools will drop you on a dime and act like you don't exist anymore. Yep. What was that like for you?
Man, it was tough. Even just like rehabbing a severe knee injury, that's the physical barrier is tough, but the mental barrier is 100 times harder. I don't ever want to have to go through anything like that again. You kind of get down in the dumps for 6-7 months until you can finally start running again and doing everything normal again. And then I went and saw a sports psychologist for a while. I went and got a life coach. So I got my relationship closer with God, and put my faith in everything, and I wasn't worried about kind of the journey. I was just kind of embracing it. The destination's one thing, but the journey to get there is a whole different beast. So just kind of being where my feet were and focusing on what I could control and doing whatever I could to get back to I guess the norm of things. It was tough. I came back a year later, felt like I wasn't 100%, and I tore it up again. And so you felt like I'm finally cleared. I'm finally getting hearing my pads clink again, and it was taken from me again. And so I go through, get another surgery, and the second time was 1,000 times harder than the first time. And there were plenty of conversations I had with my parents telling them I'm not cut for this anymore. I never dealt with this in high school. I never had bad injuries, and there were countless conversations that were held, and my parents did a good job of letting me know how strong I was for continuing to do it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's helped me put me into the shoes I am today and be the man I am today. So there's as much as there is bad, there's good to it. And, it's just identifying the good.
Well, and man, you've said three things that I haven't heard for a while. I interviewed and had the pleasure to interview JoJo Doman. And of course, he went through a lot of the similar things for you, except for 3 different defensive coordinators that he had to keep trying for, but pit crew, that's what he called it. When you look at, you said you had to get, pretty much your counseling, your crew around you. Who helped you understand that that's what you needed, and how, if I'm an athlete that's in that situation, take that first step to go, this is what can help me. You obviously mentioned, of course, getting closer to God, but you of course had, the other people around you that helped that. How did you get to that point to know this is who I want to look for? This is how I can find it. Was it coaches? Was it parents? Who kind of led you on that?
Yeah. So I got the phone call, same day of my MRI, and, they pretty much told me I had pretty bad damage in my knee. And, like getting that phone call, it sucked. I broke down in tears in the hallway, and I went back in the meeting room because I was in position meetings. And, I was in tears. There's a big prayer circle, and I'm just sitting there, I'm sobbing. And, every guy came up to me and hugged me, and they told me, if they ever, I needed anything, to reach out to them. And my position coach at the time came up and hung out with me in my dorm room, and we just kind of talked. And, I just kept apologizing. And it's like, I'm sorry, I felt like I was going to come in here and be a dude for you, and I feel like I'm letting you down. And, he told me, screw that, everything about you right now is getting back to where you were. And, if I needed anything, to reach out to him. And then I remember calling my mom and being on FaceTime with her, everything smiles and laugh, but, like deep down, it just wasn't right. And, my mom knew that. And, I went in and I talked to our head athletic trainer, and he told me we had a sports psychologist available. So I went and met with Dr. Fritzen. I met with her once a week and just kind of told her I didn't feel like I was able of coming back and playing. And, she kind of let me shed my tears, and then she kind of brought me back down to earth, which was huge. And just kind of let me know that, I'm not alone during this, she's going to be here for me. And, we just kind of talked about everything that wasn't really football related. I kind of got my mind off of coming back and when playing football. I just came back and going back and just being the person I normally was. And so, I guess kind of getting back to that mentality, that nothing's wrong and, you're going to be fine. That was really big for me.
Well, and I like that you brought up a little more in depth on the sports psychologist of being that go-to, because many give credit to the 90s success in Nebraska to the sports psychologist that we had here. Yeah. And sometimes that part of sports is not even talked about. I could tell you in my time of high school, of course it's not college, but of coaching high school, at no time was a psychologist or a thought of that. and just life-changing moments with that person to make you who you are today. And of course, you didn't end up playing, but you chose a different role with the team. How did you get involved with that part of the team? You obviously get a new coaching staff. That's got to be a little bit of the battle. So you got these things that add up, but of course, a part of that coaching staff, you're like, okay, they're locals. They're people that have been in the game. I think your school is one of the biggest ones that has quite a few D1 experience coaches in that staff. But what was that transition of just going from one coaching staff to the other, playing, not playing, and then finding what and who Trevor is in that part?
Yeah. So I stopped playing fall camp of 22. Coach Lynn's last year here at UNK, and all my roommates were still playing, so I still went to every single game. I was in the student section. I was loud, but deep down, the turf feels 100 times better than the bleachers. And I shouldn't say I didn't enjoy it, but I loved seeing my roommates succeed. I loved seeing my former teammates succeed. But, I felt like I should have been out there. I felt like I should have been doing it with them. And, that was a really tough time for me. I was bartending at the Big Apple here in Kearney. The coaching staff changes in the spring, and I was already familiar with Coach Held from the stops at UCF and Nebraska. DM'd him on Twitter and was like, "Hey, Coach, I'm a former player here at UNK. I would love to help you guys in any way I can." And then the O-line coach, Coach Baker, reached out to me on Twitter, hopped on a phone call to him. I was literally at work, and I took that phone call. I was in there the next day interviewing. I felt like it was really like a true hire almost, like this is what you're going to be doing. This is what, how things are going to be done here. And so, I looked at it as just, flipping the page of my football career. That was a really big thing for me. I always knew I wanted to stay in the football game, whether I was coaching or training or doing what I'm doing right now. It was just, a matter of when. And so, for an opportunity like that to come up, it was huge for me just to snag it.
Well, and you say a flip of a switch. Talking to Dad through that process, how important was it? Just his words coming about, because it's kind of doing what he does, but in a different fashion, right? You're looking for one team, and you're able to kind of talk with the coaches to get the offers. He's reporting on kids who are making their moments and talking about it, and he's getting to kind of get his feet in around it, but nothing from the coaches. How did he talk you through that process, and kind of also knowing that, hey, it's in the Munson business?
Yeah. So, like I said, Dad's been covering recruiting for 25 years. I've always been so fascinated with recruiting. I've loved it. Just kind of being in the Husker scoop before people know. And, I just loved, kind of how the recruiting process worked. I was always been just like something I've just loved. And, when the opportunity came forward to my dad, he had a job offer to go be a recruiting guy at a Power 4 program. And, he turned it down. And, he just kind of guided me in, in the sense of how to recruit and how to go about everything. And, this is how you should be handling things. So, to kind of have a mentor like that in a time where I feel like I don't really know what I'm doing, to have him kind of be my right-hand man, and especially with him being my dad, that's everything. And, just kind of, I still call him and ask him, how should I approach the portal? How do I approach high school kids? How should I do this? And he gives me insight on how to go ahead and do that. So to have somebody as reliable as him to kind of help guide me through, this journey and, still kind of figuring out everything in terms of how to recruit, it's extremely beneficial to have somebody like that in my life.
Well, and I greatly appreciate your dad, because, I had a show, and he was a part of it, and things went south, and it was kind of pulled up from under me, and I just reached out to him, but it took a year. Like, I took a year off from the radio. And I kind of said, hey, I'm kind of getting back into it. And, his words, because I was like, I don't know if, I can interview you or not. I didn't know the connection between On3 and all that. And I didn't want to step on toes. And he goes, whether we can interview or not, that's different. But his words to me about, what I do and how I conduct it just like hit hard. And it was like, this is a guy that's been in the games forever. And for him to just kind of give those talks, I can only imagine, now he's like, man, I get to feed a little bit more of my knowledge to my son, but without feeling like it's a force, right? Most dads have that feeling where they're either forcing it down their kids' throat to kind of talk it, and others can go, man, he's asking for it. He wants it. So I think that totally changes it. What is your new position when you did come back, and how was that impactful for not only the coaching staff there at UNK, but of course the football team in general?
So I think, when I like I said, when I was committed here and I helped recruit, I think we ended up signing, 90% of those guys, and they bumped my scholarship up for it. And they told me, this is something that you could really make a living out of. And so, it's kind of always just stuck in the back of my mind. And then when I hopped on staff, I was with Coach Baker. I was help coaching the O-line. I didn't want to be in a position that I was familiar with. I wanted to kind of branch out and kind of get familiar with everything. And, they said the best part for me to start was start up front, learn where everything's happening in the trenches. And so that was really big for me in my coaching career. And then, I transitioned back to the receiver room in the fall. And I went and helped the linebackers last spring, back with the receivers right now. I'll probably end up going back to the defense in the spring. Kind of want to help with the DBs in the spring. Just kind of, I feel like I'd kind of be a lot valuable there because I can give them a sense of, well, if I was playing receiver against you, I'd set you up like this. I'd set my routes up like this. I'd release you like this, depending on the coverage and what I'm seeing with my eyes. I'm seeing too high look, or I'm seeing, press bail. Okay, well, there's probably cover 4 on one side or cover 3 on the other, or, they're playing quarters or playing palms or playing Tampa. So, just kind of helping them kind of disguise everything, give them the insight of that. And then, a lot of the guys that were on the team this year were guys that I came in with. So these are guys I've known for 5 years. So, I don't really have a whole lot of a say with them because, I still hang out with those guys. But, for the transfers to get up here and, for me to, be recognized as a coach, they're still seeking input from me. And, the young guys too, it's beneficial for me to be the young guy on the staff because I feel like I resonate a little bit more with the younger kids, especially the high schoolers. And so, just kind of taking that role and, giving the campus tours and telling them things and how it is. And, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I'm going to let you know how things are done here. I think that's been an extremely valuable role for the coaching staff to have me do, and, just kind of connect with those guys.
Well, and I like that you said the switch of a hat. Of course, what do you think was the hardest thing to do of the switch of the hat, especially with being these are your teammates now? Some of them you're having a little more contact with coaching, but also because it is hard. I mean, even when you get in the real world and you have that same thing where you're the boss, and it's the same thing as what you're going through where we were friends and then I got a promotion. Now I'm the boss. And now you're going, there's thin lines, there's stuff what was the hardest thing for you? And what do you think was the easiest part for it?
Learn not to step on toes, especially the guys that, I have relationships with outside of football. I don't want to be the guy that's just, constantly getting on them. And, at the end of the day, those guys are some of my best friends. And so, I think kind of establishing a line, I think, in practice is one thing, but when they hear it from me in a game, it's different. So, I tell them what I'm seeing and I tell them what the receivers are doing and the tight ends are doing. And I'm like, look, dude, they're going to do this. And so then, they kind of learn to appreciate me a little bit more in the sense of that. And then with the young guys too, and just kind of letting them know how stuff's done here. And, as somebody who's been here 5 years as a former player, now a coach, I value UNK's program like no other. My loyalty to the Kearneys, I'll never – it's going to be hard to leave this place if it ever does have to happen. But I think just kind of stepping into a role with these young guys and kind of being a guy that they can lean on, they're going to go get ripped by the coaches, but, they can come back to me and I'm like, well, don't listen to, how they're saying it, listen to what they're saying. There's tough love out there. Some kids are going to react to that well, some kids aren't. And so, if they don't react to that well, I want to be the guy that goes over there and keeps them level-headed. So, just kind of being, like I said earlier, good cop, bad cop. I just want to be the guy that kind of mediates, everything and kind of, be the guy that loves up on them after they get, ripped up and, just kind of be the guy that they can lean on.
You, of course, have taken a lot on with the recruiting process for Kearney, and it's all over the social media in the right way. You're giving pointers, you're giving hints. I've seen all the way to I've sent my film to 108 coaches and I ain't heard back from one. And you're going through this part. What do you think is your number one thing when it comes to social media for these athletes looking for that next adventure? And what do you think is one thing that maybe you didn't know at that time that you're just like, man, how can I get this and portray it so they understand it? Because the verbiage that you use is going to make a difference on whether they accept it or not.
Yeah. So, what I'm trying to do here is create a brand for UNK. And, Twitter's kind of taken over, social media. And so, just constantly putting out tweets of our facilities and, how tough is this conference, the uniforms, the whole shebang. and, just kind of, marketing everything about UNK. That's a really big thing. Guys that are down in the South that don't, can't make this trip. Well, they got to see it virtually. So, I'm going to put out the tweets. I'm a Texas guy. I'm going to put out tweets. I'm going to text guys pictures of our facilities, campus, all that stuff. And so, just to kind of be something that they constantly see and they're constantly aware of, just to kind of be somebody that their eyes are constantly on. That's huge for recruiting. And, a big thing for high schoolers, I put out a tweet not that long ago. It was midnight. I couldn't fall asleep. I was up and I put out a tweet. I said I was up and I was recruiting. And I had a kid in my DM. He said, no, I think you're asleep. And so, I think kind of like, just kind of toying with how the coaches are wording things and kind of making a little bit of fun out of it. Give a coach a good smile. Give them a reason to watch you. I see constant messages of saying, hey, Coach Munson, my name's so-and-so. I see that, do something that sticks out. I saw a tweet, O-line coach tweeted out, he got an email and the subject line was IHOP. And it was an offensive lineman. He's like, I'm always going to open an email that says IHOP. And it was a kid's film. You have to be able to market yourself in a different sense of, of just being a player. You got to have kind of like a little persona to you almost.
A little swagger.
And I'm going to put out tweets too. I like 7-on-7 in the sense of, you can kind of display your athletic abilities, but I'm not going to recruit you over 7-on-7. I'm not going to do that. It's different when you get hit in the mouth. It's different when those pads are clinking.
Coming across the center field is not the same.
It's a different breed. How do you respond to getting hit? I just being able to market yourself and then just kind of putting out constant videos, constantly comment underneath film. Guys are saying that we're not going through and watching film on Twitter on tweets I put out. That's lies. I'm going through and I'm watching everybody. I can't leave any stone unturned. I couldn't care less if you're from New York or you're from New Mexico. I don't care. If you are good, people will find you. So, that's a really big thing in the recruiting process.
Senior day. What all do you remember of that day, and what are you gonna, make sure that the kids in the future understand of that day for you and how it kind of turned that page for you, right? You really got to close the school part and start, as some say, the big boy pants part, but you were already there a little bit. You were able to close that door with pride and with able to do it with the team members that you joined at the same time.
Yeah. It was extremely emotional. Just kind of walking on that field for senior day, you remember it in high school, but it hits 100 times harder in college. If everybody's going to go do that on their separate ways and, start their own careers, I'm not going to be around my roommates and my best friends for much longer. We took a really good time to, just have a night for the guys that we came in here with. There's not very many of us left. So, just kind of talk about all the remember wins and, just kind of sit back and, hit the rewind button for a little bit and kind of talk about everything that we had fun with. And then, obviously my parents getting able to come up here and, my grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, girlfriend was up here, just kind of seeing how much this place means to me. And then, looking over at mom after we get done walking and she's crying, it's a bit of a Cinderella story for me to follow their footsteps. It's a really big emotional thing. And so, walking through the line and high-fiving all the teammates and, it was really big for me to just go ahead and go through that line and shake hands and, be able to love up on everybody, especially after the game too, like the younger guys, like, Kearney means a lot to me. And, as much as I want to sit there and cry and talk to you about how well you're doing, it's more so take care of the place, leave it better than you found it, constantly, pursue greatness here. This program deserves to be great. And so, just telling them to, be a leader, be vocal. I don't care about your position. Be somebody that those guys listen to. Stuff's going to get hard. Stuff's going to hit the fan. Be the guy that kind of keeps everybody level-headed. It was a really cool moment for me, and being able to talk to the younger guys too. The freshmen, sophomores, juniors, guys that are getting ready to be seniors next year, and just constantly tell them, this, take what we've learned this year and build on to that. It's step by step, brick by brick. And so, just constantly putting one foot in front of the other and bettering this place.
Well, and you went through 2 head coaches. What do you think is the message that you got from your first head coach? I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. And then what do you think is the message that Coach Held kind of left you with to understand that this is where you want to make home?
Man, even just coming to Kearney on visits, I love the town. I love the town. I love the coaching staff. I feel like I could have walked in their office and, talk about anything other than football. When the head coach left, no, but none of us were really expecting it. And we were all really surprised. And then, Coach Held gets hired. And he's somebody with a very good Division I background. And so, I shouldn't say that we were just kind of like flipping the page, but still going based off of what the foundation that Coach Lynn laid down for us. And then kind of putting our own little twist onto it with Coach Held. And so, some guys react to it well, some guys don't. And, it's just a matter of, weeding guys out that are good for the program, guys that are going to be a problem. It's the difference between the two is it's not as big as what, people would really think. Coach, I'm very much bought into Coach Held's vision here and what he's wanting to do here in Kearney. And I think he's done a great job conveying his messages to the program and the players. He's done a fascinating job in the recruiting game, developing guys too.
Well, I built a little relationship with Coach Held prior to really kind of getting to talk to you, because I don't like to bother athletes when they're doing what they need to do. And the offer that he, presented for us here at Wired Axcess Podcast to come out, do what we do for high schools, but more so for me, it was connecting your high school students locally in the state to the program. How important is in-state connection? Don't get me wrong. We know talent is across the United States. As you said, you'll go anywhere. But if you don't have any anchor in state, and that was kind of my whole goal there, besides, sharing. I mean, I know I even created some highlights for Fort Hays, because just the athletes and the hard work you guys do, it's all one lump sum. I just felt that was so, one, very thankful for doing it, but two, it was just such a good connection. And then finishing off with a future Loper that I've been watching through the process of the prep zone and camps and actually went to school with my son, but seeing him kind of seal that deal on the end, it was like a complete circle for me. But as an athlete and all that, how important is that to the program?
It's huge. Nebraska's our bloodline. We have to keep kids in state. Any kid that the team down the road is not going to take, we got to go get those guys. And, we got to be able to talk to those guys and recruit those guys very well and, kind of establish our presence in Lincoln and Omaha. And okay, let's go to the small towns. Let's go find the 6-man, 8-man guys. Let's go find the small town Nebraska kids that are playing C1, C2. You got to be able to find those kids. And then, just branching off in the Midwest, we're going to go to Kansas. We're going to go to Oklahoma. We're going to go to the Kansas City Metroplex, St. Louis. We're going to go up into South Dakota. We're going to get into Colorado. And, then we'll go cherry pick. But, Nebraska's our bloodline. Midwest is our life support. And then we're going to go cherry pick a little bit.
Well, most coaches, when they do the recruiting process, they kind of start building their comfort zone or hey, this coach can recruit better here.
Yeah.
With your Texas ties, is that something that you're hoping in due time to build that rapport to help you? Of course, Dad has a good connection still with all the high schools there.
Yeah.
Is that what you're hoping to be, kind of your little niche, or what?
Yeah.
What is going to be Trevor Munson's area? What is going to be? Of course, we know the social media, we know that, but what is going to be your specialty? That if I was another college and I came to Kearney and said, "Hey, I want this guy," what am I wanting Trevor for?
I want to run the South. I want to be able to recruit the South. I want to recruit from Texas to Florida, and then eventually I want to get up in the coast over there. But I really want to run Texas. There's all kinds of Texas kids looking for a home that are ballers, and so I want to be able to run Texas and go get those guys. And then I want to go into Louisiana. I want to go to Mississippi. I want to get Georgia. I want to get Florida. I want to get Bama guys. Like I love the South just because the competition. They know what it takes to be great, and they it's a different breed down south. Even talking about it doesn't do it justice. So I want to be able to run the South because I know those guys know what it takes. So that's a really big thing for me. Those guys are workhorses, and the Midwest kids are the same way. But I just think the South kids are just wired a little bit differently. With spring football, summer workouts, winter workouts, football season being 20 weeks long, like it's not a foreign language to them when they get to college. They know what it's like, and they're not going to get burnt out either. They love it. They're cut from a different cloth.
But how are you going to explain the coldness if you are still at Kearney? How do you do that and especially for the Texas and all that. I mean, that's always kind of a big talk. I mean, the weather's different, and it does go into your football season.
Yeah, just tell them, it's going to get cold. It's going to get cold. You're going to figure out who you are. But it takes one winter and then you're used to it. I got made fun of my freshman year for wearing big coats and it was 45 degrees. My roommates are wearing long sleeves and joggers and I'm wearing thick sweatpants, a sweatshirt and a puffer coat. And, I got made fun of for it. But you just kind of get used to it. And, it's just kind of one of those things with mental barrier. What are you willing to do to, surpass that? And, why wouldn't you want to come play in a conference like this? I think there's all kinds of, just little things. I think weather's, the only downside to it. It's a red flag for any coach, taking a kid from the South and moving them up north where it snows. But I think the best part about Kearney in the Midwest, you get all 4 seasons. And so, it's not really something you get down south. I had a Christmas, it was 90 degrees outside. Didn't feel like Christmas. But, up here right now it's 40 degrees. Back in Texas, it's 78. So, kids aren't used to it, but, it takes one winter and then, you're ready to go.
Well, Coach Munson, and I know that kind of feels, a little bit better as it grows on you. We'll get you out of here on this. What's your current position? What's the graduation degree that you're going away with? Because you really stressed how important it is to make sure to have that backup plan. And what's the future look like for you and you and your journey?
So right now I got my title is student assistant with the offense. I really help the receivers, but I'd say I'm really more quality control based in just the sense, is practice running smooth? Is do we need dummies for this? Scout team, how does that work? What do I need to do in that sense? And then I really help in the recruiting game, building a brand for this program, just getting guys want to come here rather than just looking at it as just kind of like a backup option. I want to be the #1 school for everybody in America. I'm graduating with an exercise science degree in May. I got a minor in physical education. I'll go on to grad school and be a GA and go get my MBA. The way the coaching stuff doesn't work out, moving too much, going to medical sales. And then, kind of a vision board that I have for myself. I want to be running my own recruiting department before I'm 30. Just kind of having that set out for me. I want to be a position coach that can recruit. I want to be able to go and get those guys. If push comes to shove and I'm just a recruiting guy, I want to run my own recruiting department. I feel like I know how recruiting's done. I feel like I have a really good grasp on it. I think I'm very beneficial in that aspect. So, I feel like whoever's going to get me here in the next coming years, I think they're getting a steal.
Well, Trevor, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your journey and breaking down some of the most important things that people sometimes overthink or they just don't think about because they don't go through it. But when that hits, hopefully one parent, one athlete will just see something in someone's video, whether it's this one or any video of anybody's talking about the scenarios beyond the stats, beyond the football field, because like you said, very important, mental stress and all that is something that can either make or break you when it gets tough. So I appreciate you really sharing that vulnerability with the future. And I can't wait to see what you guys do. Once again, thank you for having me, Wired Axcess, out there doing the plug and play and really connecting those dots of going, man, these athletes are closer to home than I know. As I said, with the local athlete committing at the same time. And we'll be on the lookout and obviously sharing because it's in state. And that's what we always look for. Anything that has to do with the state of Nebraska. Yeah. It can be Kearney, UNL, it could be UNO, it can be Hastings, it could be any of them, because these are all opportunities that we just hope you don't miss. Right. And I think you said the #1 thing. Go where you're wanted, not where you're just put up with, man. So thanks again, Trevor, and good luck this next year for the Lopers. And as I gotta say at the end of that interview, lope up, and we'll see you on the next one. Remember, follow Wired Axcess, a Hurrdat Sports production. We'll see you next time.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.